A fireside chat of a difference. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special place. We are having our fireside chat in a different place, as you can see with the decor behind me. We're right in the middle of our courtyard of our camp, and a couple of reasons why we decided to change it. We were going to change it up last week, but other events took precedence, and so we ended up doing another type of FSC called a front seat chat, and that was kind of fun. Myself and Brent, with Brian bringing up the rear with the towed vehicle, steering the tow and braking with the towed vehicle, was really great fun. It's hard to believe that so much has happened in a week, because I was thinking back to it now, and I thought this was supposed to happen last week. We'd worked up to trying to get a fireside chat going here last week, and we were all geared up for it, and then we had that issue with the vehicle, which ended up on a front seat chat. But it's been a month in between this last week in terms of all sorts of things, and I'm going to be waiting for Scott to come and join me. He's coming back from a wonderful evening. We miraculously pulled a rabbit out of a hat, but actually it wasn't. It was more like a leopard out of the bush in finding Karula. That was really magic of Scott, and he's on his way with his encounter with Karula, and we're going to hear all about that. I had a fantastic afternoon. I was dying to go live with you. I was sitting at Buffelshoek Dam in my element. I was surrounded by ellies at one stage, but for the most part, Viam and I were sitting at the side of the dam that the ellies didn't really know we were there for the most part, and they were on the opposite side of the water, so we were able to watch them doing things that were absolutely fantastic. But it's been a great week. It started off with last week's fireside chat or front seat chat. Brent was here. Brent is now on leave. Scott's come back. So there's that little bit of a crossover, but there's also been some very exciting things that have happened this week. Some firsts for WildEarth on our current series, on our current broadcasts that we've started back in November. And everybody, I don't think there's a viewer that started back in November and who's joined us subsequently who hasn't given up on the hope that one day we're going to find a cheetah. And it wasn't only that wonderful moment when Scott was able to get to the cheetah over on Arathusa, but luckily he came back this way in the afternoon. Now, it's very, very interesting in that I was sent photographs, and photographs seem to indicate that he's a highly nomadic individual that has come up from the southern Sabi Sands, from the Sabi area, which is way down south below the Sand River. And it's quite remarkable how much distance this cat has travelled, if it is the same cat. I have a feeling it is. He does have a very distinctive eye pattern. We saw a lot of the side of his face, because there were times when he was side onto us for the most part. Maybe avoiding eye contact, I don't know. But those very distinctive side stripe and spot patterns on his face, as well as a very distinctive scar on his nose, and that's something that we're going to be looking out for in the future. There is a Facebook page, the Cheetahs of the Sabi Sand, and much like the leopard and the lion of the Sabi Sand, it'd be nice to maybe try and keep track of him through other rangers' posts and other rangers' photographs, and I'm going to certainly try and find I took some photos. I'm going to see if there are any photos that I took that maybe highlight some of the features of his face. I'm sure Scott also took some photos. And now here, Jigger just pulling in, so Scotty's going to be joining us shortly. We're going to do a little bit of a recap of the week, and then shortly after that we're going to be going to some questions that you might send in. It's not like the drive where we're talking about the animals that we're seeing. We're not talking necessarily about everything else. But if there are any other questions you'd like to ask, you're welcome to. And also, obviously, on the subject of nature and wildlife, because that's what we're here for, that's what we live for. The camp that we're in is actually a training camp, and we're very, very lucky to be able to be part of it. One of the reasons why we decided to bring the fire inside is because it's been very, very dry, although the last day of drizzle has kind of dampened things down a little bit. The bush has been very dry, and a lot of the properties, a lot of the landowners are starting to get concerned with runaway fires, so fire breaks are starting to be made. Fire breaks are these areas where the grass is either cut or burnt to a very low level, where the fire can either be fought from that point going backwards, or the fire will be put out by reaching that point. So it's a very important management tool. Excuse me. Management tool in terms of protecting the integrity of the sequence of plants that take place season to season. Fires are a very important part of the ecosystem, but too frequent fires can actually damage an ecosystem, and we've certainly seen that with some areas where fires have ravaged parts of the country. We've had some very bad fires in the Cape. Of course, everybody remembers some of the fires that have occurred down in Australia as well. Aha. Good evening, Squire.
Good evening, sir.
How are you?
Very good.
Karibu moto yangu.
Thank you very much. This is good.
It is.
Very nice.
Welcome,
I like the
Scotty.
new spot.
It's the start of new.
Good.
Good. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
You had a
Marc.
Karula adventure.
It was incredible. As I was saying, this is what we're doing. We're having a look for Karula.
Yeah.
And we're just driving down that, just coming up the dip, as you would have gone past the waterhole and then
Yes,
continuing down.
That one and only rock that is on the.
Exactly, exactly. And I said, we're following up on her. She's heading in this. She was last seen heading in this area a while ago. And then Romeo said, there she is. And she was walking straight down towards the road. And then she popped out, went for a drink, and then disappeared into the thick vegetation around the edge of the camp. Okay. And then interestingly enough...
But that should be just behind us here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then interestingly from there, she kind of headed back down towards the dam. So I went and got into the drainage line and drove up to where that drainage line enters the camp. And we were waiting. Romeo had the camera on the moon. A cricket started calling loudly, and we thought, well, maybe the cricket knows something we don't know. And seconds later, she popped into view, under the fence, up onto the deck,
No, you're kidding.
before Romeo could bring the camera down from the moon. So that's where she is now, or where she was last seen.
She's had so many cubs playing on those deck. It's actually been amazing because originally there wasn't that fence there before. That's kind of a new fence. There was always an elephant fence around the camp, which is an electric wire, sort of elephant shoulder height. So I guess it stopped things like giraffe and elephant, but it let anything else move through. And boy, we had some really amazing moments with her and her cubs on the deck, and baboons mobbing them. And
Yeah, Ellen Fowler sent through a message saying multiple different litters
Ellen,
have
I
been
think
viewed.
probably experienced. Ellen's been with us for a long time. Hi, Elle. And yeah, seen a lot of those antics of her leaving the cubs on the deck, almost like, here, Lodge, babysit my cubs while she goes off. And it was almost that way even in our camp, because our camp, from that point where you saw her, the original WildEarth camp isn't really more than 50 yards behind those shallows. And so it's just behind us, and we may be another 50 yards on. So it's not very far from where we are now. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's just behind our fence. And I was envisaging sitting here around the fire and her poking her head around the corner there. She used to come into camp.
Okay.
Yeah, she used to play with our laundry, and
As they should, and they should make themselves at home here, seeing as though we're in their home, I guess.
yeah. Well, you were having fun with Karula, and I had an amazing time with Elephant. I had, myself and Wiem. By the way, Viem's on camera this evening. Jason is undoing a lot of things on the vehicle after drive and putting things on charge. And, well, Scott and I here at FireSide Chat, welcome to it, of course. It's different, it is. But I had amazing ellies. We got to Buffelshoek Dam, and we thought we'd stop there and try and wait for signal. And it was desperate, because there were buffalo lying all around the pan, and this one ellie bull came in and he sauntered along the dam wall, and before we knew it, it was like the floodgates opened and there was elephants flowing into the dam. Well, I know that Wiem filmed some of it, and I took a few photos before my battery ran out, and then I took a bit of stuff on my phone. When in doubt, or when all else fails, use the phone.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, certainly.
But it's been a good week. I was saying as well, just before you came in, how this week has been so long because so much has happened.
Exactly. Exactly. Just this afternoon, we were kind of brushing over the highlights of the week. We kept surprising ourselves with so much stuff that we'd even forgotten about, because there has been so much going on.
I think the start was Buffelshoek Dam with quarantine.
Exactly.
And that was just when you got back from leave.
Yep, that was my first afternoon, I believe.
Yeah.
First afternoon drive back. Bumped into him at Buffelshoek Dam, luckily. And then left him. He headed off, but he obviously didn't head too far from there because he, in all likelihood,
I think he did a bit of a circle and came back.
Yeah, quite possibly, but still in that area, I guess, and that's where he was found a day later. So we missed him for a day. Somehow nobody went to Buffelshoek Dam for a whole day, but then the following day, he was found, and that's when you had some great sightings of him in the morning and the afternoon.
That was when this amazing thing happened where there was a conundrum, I guess, if you want to put it that way. There was a new arrival, not only the fact that there was the quarantine male that had and I won't even suggest that he made the kill, but there was quarantine male, there was the remains of a nyala, and we'll get to the remains in a little bit, and there was a new arrival at the dam, which was a crocodile. And it's been, I think, maybe there's some viewers who might send us in a date, but there are dates probably that we could get when the last time was that a crocodile was seen there. And quite remarkably, having had subsequent visits with him at the dam, it's behaving very similar to the crocodile that was here 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, interesting.
Except it was a bit smaller. So it's been feeding. You saw it eating terrapins.
Yeah, interestingly enough, myself and Nikki went out between drives to go and have a look at quarantine and the nyala kill, and of course the new crocodile, because I love crocodiles and have been dying to see one. So we headed out between drives, and he munched down 3 terrapins within a space of 15 minutes, which was quite incredible. I've actually got a photograph of some elephants were drinking very close to where he caught one of these terrapins, and he's swimming away with this terrapin in its mouth with a baby elephant looking at it in disgust.
No.
Yeah. So I must put that up on my Facebook page for all to see. I've just been a bit slack with getting my photos uploaded, but it's there and it will be uploaded at some stage.
Yeah, but you can do the same to me, because I've also been pretty bad with that.
Yeah.
But I was devastated today. As you know, it's a new camera, so I'm still learning, and I've got to learn that when the battery level still shows 3/4, that it's nearly empty.
Aha.
Because suddenly there were 50, 60 elephants around Buffelshoek Dam, and I had no battery power. I couldn't do a thing about it.
Oh, no.
And what I could maybe get was a little bit on my phone. But it was, one of those things. But there was also wonderful moments with quarantine and this kill at Buffelshoek Dam with the hyena. Did you get any of that?
Photographically, no. Photographically, the viewers got far better screenshots than I managed to take photographs. So well done to you.
I didn't get much, but we did have those moments where he acquiesced. He just let the hyena, and this was a really raggedy hyena. And did you see her with like the half ear,
no tail,
and no tail?
Yeah.
And that's a hyena that's been there and done it.
Yeah.
But she had the kill, and she was, and he was just backing off. He was sort of just, okay, have at it. But he hissed a few times, and it was almost like I could see the intent in his eyes. He was dying to just reach up and just do that. But I think she was too old. I think if it was a youngster, he probably would have.
Yeah, no, she, I think, commanded respect after all the battles she's been in, it appeared.
Okay, so then after that, what was your best bump for the week?
Well, yeah, that sighting was incredible. I guess the next major highlight was seeing the cheetah.
Yeah, well, I was hoping you were going to say that.
And it's been since the beginning of November that various people have been here filming, not myself and Marc personally, but from the beginning of November there's been a broadcast going from here, and that basically leads us up to 5 months till today, and it was the first cheetah we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
So, and we got really lucky. We saw a great sighting of it in the morning, of it feeding on a duiker and then moving off for a while. So I got to see it feeding and on the move. And then lo and behold, it popped up right on our front doorstep here at the quarantine clearings. And that's when you got to enjoy the afternoon.
But I think also one of the amazing things was that we both got to be there at the same time. And we managed to sort of swap over cameras, and those are unique moments of we're forever just seeing the animals, and people forget the perspective of what it is like for us to be. And I think that kind of gives it to the viewers, being able to show the other vehicle with a sighting, to show what it's like for us to be sitting in a sighting. Because you don't really get much of a perspective just from the camera's angle, because you don't, as soon as the camera starts zooming in, you lose the perspective from the vehicle. You have no idea of where you are in relation to the vehicle. But we did keep out a distance from that little boy, and did pay off. We spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
And having lots of elephants around is something that you must be loving, because they come and go, and there can be periods where we won't see elephants on this property for a few days, maybe even a week, or the odd one or two.
I think it's coming too, but I've had some incredible moments these last few days, and yes, I think, as some viewers have put it, in my element. But speaking of my element, you had some baby hyena moments.
Oh, those hyena are too good, and it's incredible how fortunate we are that they've stayed in that den site for a considerable length of time now.
They have. It's quite extended, yeah.
Yeah, so let's hope they stay there, but they are known to move. But for now, we're very happy that they're still there, and those cubs are incredibly inquisitive, and now even more so than before. The other day when I arrived, I couldn't park in the usual spot relatively close to the den site because the mother was lying there.
I've noticed that a few times now. Yeah. I think that maybe she's doing it so we don't park.
And I stopped the car there for kind of double the distance I usually am from the entrance to the den, and the cubs all came running up and playing around, and interestingly they were playing quite aggressively with one another, and I guess that is important for them even from a very young age, because they do have such an intense hierarchical system that they do start competing for hierarchy even from very, very small. So interesting to witness that and enjoy the action of those youngsters playing around.
I think it also teaches them restraint. I think it teaches them how far they can go with individuals that is different to how far they need to go when they're killing or hunting, that sort of thing. I think that's also important. But yeah, it's like, I think, any kids, that games get too far, and they have to get too far. Games have to get to be where somebody gets hurt, because how do they know where their limits are?
Exactly.
And wonderful aspects of survival. Anyway, I think we should take one or two questions.
That's a good idea, Mark. I think we've covered the main highlights of the week. Well, a few that come to mind, but there have been so many. The Janet, even though it was a glimpse, was one. Some interesting nocturnal sightings. You had a great sighting of the owl last night.
But what was so amazing about that was it was at that moment of sign-off, and I had no idea what the owl's intention was, but I just saw a little bit of movement from it, and I said, and now it's time to fly away. And it flew away, and we closed, and it was beautiful.
Did you call it? I
think so. I don't know. It might have been in my head, but maybe Nikki remembers. I don't know. But in my head it was, and it's night time, and it flew, and it was the end of drive. It was wonderful. Until 5 seconds later, as I started the vehicle, Mvula appeared in front of me. So what was I to do? Say sorry to the guests or the viewers the next day. We saw Mvula. They wouldn't have been. Sorry. Some people are saying mine is the elephant. Brent's favorite is the wild dog. What's yours?
I guess the leopard have probably won me over. I've always liked to try and say I don't have a specific favorite, and I'm not sure why I have this stance. A lot depends on the situation unfolding. Even leopards can be relatively boring if they're fast asleep, whereas a tree squirrel playing in a tree would probably be more exciting than anything sleeping. So a lot depends on the quality of the sighting, but when leopards are on the move, I really do enjoy it, and I guess that's the animal that turns me on the most.
I know what you're saying, though, because I've always said, in fact, even in the same circumstances, probably looking across a fire, having asked or answered the same question, the favorite is what you're watching at that moment, because it's hard to have a favorite. It's really so hard to really think of one thing. I have that affinity with elephants. I have that spiritual connection with elephants, so yes, they are but if I'm with wasps, even, I can make it sound like wasps are the most amazing creatures on the planet.
Exactly.
And it's
and
what
I've
you
seen
with.
Mark get extremely excited when I arrive with some creepy crawly that I don't have a clue what it is, and I come up to Mark and he jumps for joy and knows exactly what it is. So even insects get you going.
But yeah, that's what it's about. It's nature. It's just this all surprising, wonderful world out there that has so many different facets to it. It's this gem of knowledge. Okay, questions, I think, because in Ohio, Tess. Hi, Tess. How have we gained so much knowledge? Experience, or have we had formal training?
Well, I'll start. Evening, Tess, and that's a good question. I guess my wildlife knowledge started when I was quite young. I was fortunate enough to have parents that took me to various nature reserves within South Africa. Therefore, from a young age, I maybe wasn't being trained, but I was being immersed in wilderness, and that opened up the option for me to fall in love with it, which I did. And also having pets growing up and friends who had farms and areas of open space that allowed us freedom to go out and explore and play helped. But in terms of actual training, I did a 6-month training course at a camp in the southern Sabi Sands, and I was very fortunate. The course was intimate. There was only 6 of us on the course, and we had a great trainer who hopefully may be coming in to the WildEarth team temporarily for little stints, and he's an incredibly knowledgeable individual, so he might be coming in to do a few new things or help out when some of us are on leave. And just did that 6-month training course to get the official qualifications that are required to be able to legally guide within South Africa and for lodges within the country. And after the training course, obviously Mark would be the first person to say you keep learning on a daily basis from fellow guides, trackers, people that know the industry well. There's a hyena calling.
Yeah.
Let's keep quiet for a second and see if it doesn't call again. As we start talking again, it's going to call.
It will. I'll try and keep quiet quickly.
Anyway, there was a hyena that called, probably on quarantine, I'd guess. Or
I've got only one ear, so my stereophonic reception is hindered.
Okay,
put it mildly.
But yeah, Tess, the growth of knowledge is shared amongst guides, and having somebody like Marc around who's incredibly experienced in this industry helps me greatly, because I get so much information that he would have had passed on by other people over the years, and now I'm gathering it all from him. So I think it's just a chain reaction of people in the industry.
It's also a mutual learning experience, because we've had different experiences. So there's as much as I can learn from you as you can learn from me. Thanks for the kind words, but it's as much a benefit for me having people like Scott and Brent around who have experienced other parts of Southern and East Africa. Brent in some cases has been to West Africa. We've shared experiences in East Africa, albeit at different times, and it's our interpretation of those experiences and talking about it and learning from each other that it's a mutual learning experience. No matter how much experience one has in the bush, no matter how much time you spend in here, nature is just such a vast subject that you always only know a fraction, and the fractions are so small that I'm only marginally, even it's only a few years ahead of you in terms of experience, but in terms of what we've seen, I cannot match what you have. You cannot match what I have. That's the nature of the experiences that we have on the drives. The cheetah that we saw, the Karula incident this evening, everything that we watch is a one-off. It's never to be repeated, and because it's a learning curve of knowledge that is never ending. It's constantly expanding. We get asked so many times, we get asked questions about animal behavior. What's an animal going to do? What's it thinking? And we can never answer. No matter how much time we spend watching them, we can never answer those questions.
We will always be surprised by them.
I think so.
Exactly.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
It is indeed. Wonderful question, Tess, actually. I'm the same, kind of. I mean, I grew up with it. I didn't have any formal training. I just grew up with it and was exposed to it. And I've had learning experience from being under guys that had more experience than me, learning from them and experiencing my own view of things and experience. I think that's what it is. And this thirst for knowledge, you can't do without books. You can't do without that academic side of it to learn from the academics. But it was never in me to take the academic route.
Good. It's not difficult, though, and that's important for everyone to know out there. If you are interested in getting into this industry, it's not very difficult, and there are lots of training facilities that help you get the necessary qualifications that you need. And then, like any job, you'll build your way up from being kind of possibly working for a lesser lodge or being a skivvy, running around helping out at a certain camp, and then you slowly build your way up, and that's no different to any industry, like I say. But
I know gardeners who went up from gardening to waitering to tracking and then to guiding and then to lodge management.
Exactly, exactly. And like Mark said, the thirst for knowledge and if anybody enjoys being in the bush, they can be taught the necessary skills and knowledge.
The book knowledge.
But the enthusiasm and thirst for being out here is the key factor that you need, and the rest will fall into place. So that's something important that my trainer at Singita employed this theory with one of the girl guides that he employed. She literally didn't know the difference between a pigeon and a duck. She was clueless. But she had this incredible enthusiasm and love for wilderness, and she did the training and became an incredible guide. So that's a good example of how you don't need to necessarily know anything to come out here and get involved in this industry.
Passion and drive. So I've got a question from a very special person in Alaska, Heather, Sister Heather, because she's also had a kidney transplant. So anyways, that's another story. But okay. Heather's asking, we've noticed crocodiles eating terrapins, and it's documented. I mean, it's probably documented quite widely that young terrapins growing up, or rather young crocodiles growing up, eat terrapins. Heather's asking how they digest them. With that pie shell, I mean that hard shell.
Well, what I can assure you, Heather, is that the crocodile was on the other side of the dam to where we were, so we couldn't see very well, but we could hear the crunching from very far away. And I think a lot of the shell would have been crunched up into kind of bite-sized pieces. And from what I understand, and Mark will probably be able to confirm this, crocodiles have got incredible digestive juices. Yeah. And that's suited to their way of feeding, because they typically tear off very big chunks of flesh that they swallow whole. They don't really chew off little bits. Yeah. So by swallowing, probably the smallest bits they'll get would be an animal like a terrapin that kind of shatters.
Crush it and just swallow it whole even.
Yeah. But they do swallow very large chunks of meat when they are feeding, and therefore need incredibly strong digestive juices to be able to process that. And I think the shell would either get...
No, I think it gets digested. Yeah. And crocs, like hyena, when you look at crocs don't regurgitate anything, but anything that comes out is like a typical reptilian paste.
Mm-hmm. What was that?
I thought it was a bushbuck maybe barking. But like hyena, crocs digest hair and bone and everything. So what comes out is merely the calcium paste and, of course, uric acid and the typical things that come out. So, yeah, exceptionally strong digestive juices for crocs. As you say, because all they can do is tear off chunks. Crocodiles don't have a muscle to open their jaw. They've only got muscle to close their jaw. That's why it's so easy to prop a crocodile or an alligator's mouth open with a stick, because it doesn't have the ability to actually with muscle, with like the masseter muscles of a hyena or something, to open. It uses gravity to open, but it's got that incredible force to close. And so there isn't even an option of chewing. They can crunch, so they can. And I suppose a terrapin shell would be crunched, and then the entire thing gets digested.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it probably takes a long time to get all the bone and the calcium, because they've found remains in crocodiles that have been there for some time.
Okay.
But a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Heather, I'll be sure to put that picture up on my Facebook page for you to see. It's quite an interesting shot with the elephant looking in disgust at this crocodile as it swims off with the terrapin.
Nick is asking what was the sort of influencing factor in your decision, or my decision, our decision, to be part of the WildEarth team as opposed to being part of the sort of conventional guiding fraternity. But we both come from that, really.
Yeah. I'll go first. I got very fortunate. I had come back from 2 years in East Africa, the majority of time which I spent in Kenya, and probably 6 months of which in Tanzania. And it was time to come home. I love East Africa dearly, but it was difficult working there for various reasons, and was looking forward to coming back home and seeing what job I could find within the industry. And within a few weeks of being back, I was actually contacted by an old friend from a camp where I worked in the Sabi Sands, and he let me know that there was this job going, and he actually runs a recruitment company now, helping lodges source guides and trackers. So he had the know-how that WildEarth were looking for somebody, and he thought that I would fit the profile, so got a hold of me and spoke to Will Fox initially, and then Graham, and the rest is history. And I'm so glad the opportunity did literally land in my lap. I got incredibly fortunate, I feel, and look forward to seeing what happens with WildEarth and spending as much time as I can with the company as it grows, because I really feel it's an incredible concept. And to be honest, didn't really know that it was around, or that, you know, this live interactive production concept was going, even though I live in South Africa and work in the bush. So it was a big surprise to me that it was actually even going on, and obviously a very exciting concept that I jumped at the idea of. So I got lucky.
I did too. I also got lucky, I guess. Coming from a lodge background, lodge and camps background, I got tired of the management side of things, because I think we guides, we get into the industry, we love it, and the only way to progress, only if you have to have some motivation in life, you have to have some sort of drive, and the drive was to eventually run a camp. And for me, it was to run remote camps in really weird places in Africa. And I found myself in places like Tanzania and Kenya and Zambia and Botswana, and it was wonderful. But the further I got, the more it took me out of the bush, and more got involved with the actual management of camps and
counting the cabbages to make sure there's enough food for the guests, and not getting out there.
Making sure that the packet of matches that moved from one store to the other was documented, and then it was documented from that store to the kitchen, and that every match that was used by the ship. And
yeah,
I love accounting software. I love accounting software like I love elephants. He says, not true. But yeah, it was a wonderful thing. I came back from East Africa thinking I was going to get closer to family, and I moved down to the Cape, managing a lovely little nature reserve in the Cape, and I was happy with Wales for a while, and I still didn't get to see my family because I was busy, and longed for elephants. And it was almost, the universe was just there for me at that time, as it's been in many times in my past. I remember dancing around the office in this wonderful 18th century farmhouse in the Cape, thinking, this is what I want to do. There was an ad for a presenter for a nature program. Oh, yes, I
so
love.
Did you stumble across the ad in a magazine or?
No, I was. My contract was coming to an end. It was the end of October. My contract came to an end at the end of October of 2008. And it just happened to be Emily was having her first child. She was still pregnant with her first little one, and they were looking for a new presenter for WildEarth, and they'd asked a company, a recruitment company who does a lot of lodge and bush staff recruitment, and I answered the ad, and it took a little while because Emily had to go and go to the UK because she gave birth in the UK and then come back. And it was early December that I came down here. Pete Brat met me in Hoedspruit.
Okay.
I took a bus from Joburg to Hoedspruit, but there wasn't a shuttle in those days. It was just the big 13-hour bus.
Oh, jeez.
From Joburg Station via Pretoria. And height of summer was beginning of December. Pete Brat picked me up and brought me back to Djuma, and I think it was the next day, did my tryout like you did your tryout.
Okay.
And I don't know, there was something about it. I just wanted to be part of it. I loved the concept. It was different. It was my way to not be pressurized into being part of that lodge. I can't go back to guiding with lodges. I'm too old for that. To fit in with those young guys that are riding around in their landies now. They have their clique. They have no. I won't even say age, but I'm a little bit too old for that, and I didn't want to go into management. But this was a way for me to reach you.
This was a loophole.
This was the loophole. This was that caveat. This was that little crack in the space-time continuum that allowed me to fall into, to be able to be a part of this, and to be able to talk to you and do what I do.
Good. Good.
Anyways, question again. Let's see if there's. Does my back hurt if I do not wear shoes? No. If I wear shoes, yes. No, more it's my feet hurt if I wear shoes more than my back. No, my feet, my legs, I get very, very sore. I remember the odd time when I've been in the city and I've had shoes on because I had to pound pavement for a while to go to bank and to do city things. I can't walk the next day because I've had to walk on concrete and had shoes on and things.
21st century problems you're having to deal with here, hey Mark? Shoes.
Okay, so this is not from me, this is from my little ear.
Okay.
Or actually it's from Jennifer. I thought it might have been from Final Control. How much time do you spend on your hair in the morning?
I don't spend much time on my hair at all, Jennifer.
No, I have to vouch for that. Scott wakes up like that.
I wake up and have a quick shower. We don't have mirrors in our rooms, so we don't spend too much time on the hair. But it does vary over the days, like everyone's hair, I guess. And
I suppose I fuss more about my hair than you do.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But you've got more of it than me.
There. God, that's why I don't take my hat off, because my head will burn, because there's nothing on top anymore.
But what I will tell you, Jennifer, a little trick of mine, is that I use moisturizing cream as gel, if that makes any sense. So I'll squirt some moisturizing cream, I've got very dry skin, onto my hands, rub it on my face, rub some in my hair, and then off I go.
So it's kind of set for the dry.
So yeah, that's the only secret I've got for you, Jennifer. It's moisturizing cream that holds it all together.
Does it stick up after your hat?
No, it's because it's moisturizing cream, so it's quite soft. It doesn't make it prickly.
No. Okay. Where did Andrew and Alex go? Well, Andrew. Where did Alex go? Alex went back to Russia. Alex has gone back home for a little bit. Andrew's been on leave, and that's why Romeo's here. That's why. That's why Jason is here. Jason is here. Jay is on a university break. Jason is studying at university, and he's here on a break. I think we should probably ask Jason what he's studying, and maybe we'll do that on Drive. He can tell you. That'll bring you to our Drive, okay? That's my subtle way of saying, join us on a Drive, and we can talk to Jason about what he is studying at university and why this break is so great for him, because he gets to be on camera again. And so he's here for a short while. Brian is away for and quite an extended break because he's been here for so long without a break. Since we only have the 2 camera guys, it's very hard for them to get some time off. With 3 of us guides here, or presenters here, there is enough on a 3-week, 1-week off cycle that there's always 2 of us here, and there's always going to be 1 of us off. So from that point of view, we get regular time off. But at the moment, with the camera guys, they're battling a little bit with extended time. So Andrew went off, and then Brian is off for a 3-month, or rather a 3-week stint. So that is why Wiem has come in for an extended little sojourn with us, and by the same token, so has Jason.
I did hear from Brian, and on his first nights of leave, he met up with Andrew. And a little bit of history: Andrew and Brian both worked on a WildEarth production in the Kalahari together, filming meerkats. So they've got a great friendship from their time where they spent in the Kalahari. And Brian did meet up with Andrew on his first nights of leave.
No, not surprised.
And they're having a great time in Johannesburg. So they're all well. And how incredible is it? I did mention briefly on Drive this evening that Alex, all the way in Russia, is still helping tweak things and get those broadcasts to you guys. He's an incredibly...
On a Sunday as well.
Yeah, an incredibly knowledgeable and hard-working individual. And it's just absolutely mind-boggling that he can be all the way in Russia fixing problems on the ground here.
So also it would have been Sunday night for Alex.
Yeah.
Because he's quite a few hours ahead of us. And he literally took over the FCPC from their remote control and helped us sort out this issue that finally brought us live this afternoon. Sadly lost an hour or 2, but we'll make it up to you this week. Promise. Promise.
Exactly.
We actually should have had some more coals going because we've got to cook some food on this fire soon. Our dinner depends on it.
Let's see what I can do here. Should I put this other one on?
Scott, Nicole wants to know if you prefer evening or morning drives. Nicole's in Cape Town.
Good evening, Nicole in Cape Town. I would say I prefer the morning drives. I love getting up when it's dark. Not always, but when I'm in the bush, I can think of nothing better. Waking up in the dark, going and making a cup of coffee, getting excited for the adventure. And it always is an adventure because we never know what we're going to find. And more so than the afternoon, we can expect to find tracks of animals on the roads, especially of the predators that we need to spend time looking for and tracking down, which is something I love dearly. The art of tracking is one that is hugely rewarding and hugely difficult, but when you do get it right, it's an incredibly great feeling to find these animals, especially if you are on foot coming across lion or leopard and seeing them on your own 2 feet as opposed to in the vehicle really is a rush. So that is probably why I like the mornings more. There's more unknown and everything's crisp and clean, and so much could have changed. Predators can move huge distances at the night, but probably less so in the afternoon to a degree. So you kind of, in the afternoon, you kind of know what to expect to a degree.
But I think it's the the early morning newness of the day that afternoon. There's a difference to fresh tracks in the afternoon to the fresh tracks you get in the morning, because of perhaps all the activity that happens during the day. Birds landing on the road, cars driving around. There are all sorts of things that really wash tracks away or maybe age tracks a lot faster than necessary. But somehow, because the tracks that occur, or the animals that walk around during the night, being out there at first light and seeing those tracks for the first time, there is that exciting thing about it. It's like in the old days when you used to subscribe to a comic magazine or something, and you couldn't wait for the next issue to come out. That because, I suppose in modern day, sort of the analogy would be that we're close to the lodge, folks. Excuse the noise, but can't wait for that next episode to come out because you just don't know what's going to happen. Well, I suppose it's kind of like that, but at least for us, it's unscripted.
Yeah. So, Nicole, for me, it's definitely the mornings. But in the same breath, there is something magical about that stage in the evening when you've got that last golden hour of sunlight and a beautiful sunset to stop for. Especially when you all are on safari with guests and you can stop and have a sundowner and really soak in your surroundings. The evening drive offers that. Obviously it's difficult to have sundowners in the morning, although amarula and coffee is a really tasty drink, and it's not entirely frowned upon to have an amarula with your coffee. Amarula is a liqueur that is made from the marula fruits, and that can be snuck into your coffee in the morning.
Really?
Well, I've been told.
Okay.
I've been told.
No objection to that if I drank coffee. But Diana was asking a question. Are we aware of the fact that when we're broadcasting, when we're looking at the camera, for example, we're speaking to untold numbers of people, and I guess in a sense it's a different concept to being in front of a hall of people. And I think what she's asking is, have we ever thought of it? Have we ever thought of addressing a crowd?
I personally like to try and numb the fact that there's lots of people watching.
Really?
Yeah. And to a degree, it's great to know that there are lots of people watching, because that kind of pressures you to want to perform. But at the same breath, I don't, when I'm looking at the camera, I try and just think of one or two people, maybe friends or family, and not think about the thousands of people that are watching, because it could
be a bit overwhelming.
It would be overwhelming. I mean, for us to just have all those people sitting out in front of us now.
I mean, if we could have a reverse screen where by looking through the camera it projects onto the screen the faces and places of everybody who's watching.
Yeah.
I'm kind of nervous getting up in front of a crowd. I think I would be. Somehow, I think I'm in a similar boat. It's my brain can get around the fact that there are lots of people out there that I'm talking to. I think it's wonderful. I wish I could reach more people. I think it's great when they're kids or when they're people that are incapacitated. I just love to know that there are people that are watching that are never maybe going to get to Africa to see this for themselves, and that our passion and the way we present it to you gives you a little piece of that. I love that concept. I don't know how that would translate if I was standing in a hall with lots of people, because it would be out of my element. I wouldn't be in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I could fill up quarantine with a stadium, or not a stadium, but if I had people standing on quarantine around me, didn't matter how many, maybe then it would happen. But I think for me to be in a city and be in a hall and be that would be a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Something that's interesting though that took me a bit of getting used to. I personally don't mind meeting new people or being exposed to large crowds of people or speaking to them. But getting used to that camera, and it's quite close to our faces when we turn around, that took a bit of getting used to, because there's not many people that I know personally that enjoy having a camera, be it a photo camera or a film camera, even worse, right in their face. So that certainly took a bit of getting used to. And Hayden actually taught me a trick from his days when he started out presenting, and he said you must just write your best friend's name and draw a funny little picture next to it and sticky tape it underneath the lens. So that's what I did. I had my best friend's name written on a little piece of paper dangling underneath the lens. So every time I looked up at the lens, I would assume that I was talking to him. So that was one of the tricks Hayden taught me.
Yeah, that's, I suppose, similar to what I think. I do imagine a lot of you viewers who I've had a lot of contact with, I imagine you watching through the camera, because there's been I suppose maybe it's because I've been around for a few with previous drives in either other places or here, and so some of the viewers have been in my life a little bit longer. So I can, like when Nikki says a name, I know where they come from. I can picture who it is because they've part of WildEarth for a long time, and I hope to learn a lot of future viewers the same way. And it's remarkable how much I can forget in a short space of time, but I suppose in the same sense how much I actually do retain in terms of viewers who have been here and or with us and who do watch us. So to a large extent, when I look at the camera, I see them, and the more people that I get to know who get to know me, because everybody else is an unknown. So maybe there's sort of 100 or so or more people that I can think of that are watching, although there might be 1,000 that are online. I don't know if my head will ever get to know all of those people that are watching, but I think I'm always conscious of the fact that I'm not intimidated by that so much. It's always a wonderful thing for me to reach people that I know how much it means to them to see it.
Yeah.
Few people were saying how amazing it was last week on the jigger. Now, I don't know, you heard a little bit about it with Brent and I and towing the jigger.
I did hear about that. It sounded like good fun.
It was, and I was actually thinking of doing it again one of these days.
A forced breakdown.
No, I was thinking more in terms, because we've got so much time afterwards that is dark now, that we could actually do a combined night drive. We meet up somewhere and instead of coming back to make a fire, we just carry on, let's say with Wendy, for example. Camera person can draw straws to see who brings the other vehicle back and who stays on board. And then I'll hop in the front seat with you, and then we just
see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll
do
good.
some spotting. Or not really. I thought of maybe sort of front tracker seat, but then it's better maybe on the dash or on the front seat so we can converse.
Yeah.
And we do pretty much the same thing. We have the exact same banter, except you driving and I'm sitting and I'm spotting, and we see what we can find. Might be an idea. Maybe we can look into that. We'll try to find all sorts of different things to do.
I would personally love that. Something that can be not frustrating, but something that always niggles me when I'm on drive is that I can hear the director giving Marc questions. So I know exactly what the question is that Marc's getting, but I have no idea of how he's answering it. And a lot of the questions I'd really love to know his thoughts or input to, but I just sit there wondering what he's saying, and I don't know.
I feel the same.
Yeah, so we miss out on a lot of those things that you get to see both of us. So
there are also a couple of questions that's rather you than me.
Exactly. That as well. But it's a great idea, Marc, and we should definitely mix it up a little bit, especially now with it being dark for so long. We can help one another by having to drive and shine the spotlights and control the radios can be a little bit chaotic.
Exactly, and also especially if we're in a sighting, because that does give us the ability to share with you a sighting from both of our perspectives at the same time, where, as you say, we can learn from each other's answers to the same question.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea. Maybe not so much just from a driving around point of view, but maybe if there is a sighting, like let's say, for example, we've got lion, or we've got something to watch after dark because they're still here on Juma, to hook up, and then to instead of, because we've got this extra hour of broadcast, instead of coming to the fire, maybe once or twice to do a drive around, like a night drive. But I think primarily to extend that drive and use that as a drive come front seat chat come new concept. Yes, let's do that.
Sounds good. I look forward to fine-tuning this plan with you.
Maybe try that. Have you ever encountered a poacher in the bush? Michelle was asking that.
I haven't, thankfully. I've never encountered a poacher in the bush, and consider myself lucky for not having done so.
Yeah. Only in Sulu, in Tanzania, we often encountered poachers, but they were fishing poachers. They weren't armed. They weren't taking any mammals. In fact, all they were doing is they were setting gill nets in the lakes of the Rufiji River and netting tons and tons of fish, from the tiniest little fish. And the diversity of fish in the Rufiji Delta, or rather going up into the Rufiji River and the lake system, is incredible. Some of Africa's last remaining populations of the variety of freshwater fish that occur in those rivers is the Rufiji. And these guys would set their gill nets, they would be waist, even chest deep in the lakes. And at night, when we did some of the anti-poaching patrols, because it was sad, the game division didn't have enough resources to do any anti-poaching patrols. So I volunteered, me and myself and the vehicle and the boats that I had for the boat and vehicle safaris. Out of safari time, I volunteered to let them use them, especially on full moons, to get out onto the lakes and to try and get some of these poachers. But it was a joke. It was the poachers invariably were family members, and all that really happened was all the fish were confiscated, the poachers ran away, and the rangers had a big party with all the fish.
Yeah.
That was rather sad. But it was rather hairy too, because I was more threatened by some of the anti-poaching patrols that I was helping at times than by the poachers themselves. Incredibly, there's a population of crocodiles in those lakes and that river system in the Rufiji that are so specific, so catholic in their fish diet, that the guys would be poaching fish and the crocs would leave them alone.
That's incredible.
At night, you sort of suddenly blast the lake with the spotlight, and you can see these guys setting their nets, and you can see on the edges of the nets just hundreds of eyes of crocs.
Whoa, they have got some serious...
What was weird was just downriver where the villages, where the children and stock were. That's where the crocodile attacks were happening, but not in the reserve. Very, very strange. We've got time running out here at the moment.
Yeah.
Susie wants to know what's for dinner. Well, Susie, we actually should have started already, because one of our characteristic things to do, or one of our traditional things to do, is while we're chatting, we've got the meat on the fire. We kind of haven't got there this evening, but as soon as we finished, the grid goes on and the meat comes out, and we're going to be having some lamb chops and some boerewors, which is traditional sausage, and I guess whatever veg. We'll wrap some veg in the fire, and we'll see what we can do with the veg. I'm getting hungry and thirsty. So,
yeah.
Somebody wants to know what the necklace is. Oh, we'll do that on the drive, because you've got a better camera. It's a clay tablet, a little clay square with an elephant on it. Big surprise. Where are your shoelaces?
My
Another
shoelaces,
question.
that's a good question.
We're getting personal now. And from my necklace to your shoelaces.
I took my shoelaces off in order for me to be able to clean these shoes. I don't wear socks with them, so they do require to be cleaned fairly regularly. And I've still got them. They're right here in my room, but I just haven't put them back in.
And it's more comfortable.
And the reason being, it's more comfortable and it's more aerated if the laces aren't closing it. So
those are really good old fellies.
Yeah, these are great. These are from Kenya. These are the business. These are called safari boots. Very, very good felt skins.
They don't make stitched soles anymore. Everything now is all molded into one, and your feet it's like putting your feet into a vacuum sealed, I don't know, foam covered, uncomfortable
prison.
Oh, I love being there.
So yeah, the laces are in the room. They're probably not going to go back in anytime soon. But I actually thought about putting them in the other day, but it's all good. I can run like this. I can run. So if I need to run up a tree because a buffalo is chasing me, I'm confident I'll be able to do it.
I thought it's so that you can get out of them quicker as you run. But anyway, one more question for you, Scott. I think we're running out of time, but it's actually a very important one, and we've actually welcomed all the other guys that have come back, part of the team that we were way back in the summer, which was so long ago. It was 3 months ago, 2 months ago. But it'll have to be a quick answer. No, we can go over time. That's fine. I can't put it on me. It'll be on my account. But yeah, sorry, off of the shoes. But Veerman and Jason and the new crew, but we haven't mentioned Nikki.
We haven't mentioned Nikki very much, and I'm not sure why I haven't brought it up, but for those of you who are wondering how Nikki fits in and how she got involved with WildEarth, it's through me. She is my girlfriend, and we have been going out for not very long. We met in August last year, but we're spending a lot of time together, and when the opportunity came up for the extension of the initial project that we did that finished on the 31st of January, I kind of planted the seed in her head that there could be potential room for her to join the team, and then continued begging and pleading and convincing her that she's doing the right thing by resigning from her job in Cape Town. And she did work for a really cool production company that does a reality cooking show that focuses on barbecuing, or braaiing as we said in South Africa, and it's almost a religion, this form of cooking in South Africa. And she worked for this really cool TV show that had a great team, and she wasn't planning on leaving until I convinced her to come out here. And thankfully Graham was happy with the idea and with the experience, and so far she's loving her new challenges as being the director, and I'm loving her being here. So welcome, Nikki, and now you all know how she fits in to the equation.
That's great, and we've welcomed her with open arms. Now, one last request, and then we're going to say goodbye, but VM's going to lock off the camera, and where's Jason?
Yeah.
Come here, J Romeo, and VM need to come here and just sort of kneel down so we can sort of get a group hello.
A group hello, come this side, Romeo.
And then we're going to say goodbye.
There we go.
I'm jealous. Not a chance.
Where is this thing? Oh.
Okay, this is us, folks.
Cheers, everyone.
That's Jigger and Wendy, or sometimes Jigger and Wendy, or yeah, we match it up and we switch it up every now and then, give the guys a little bit of different experience.
But it's so good having both of you back here.
So good to be here.
And we look forward to the adventures over the next few days and weeks while you're here.
Yeah.
So who's going to band down to the fire?
Okay, bye everybody. Love you.
Cheers, everyone.
See you tomorrow morning. Panning down to the fire.
It's there somewhere.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Marcus. Well done.
Great job. Thanks, guys.